Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our assembly. It's lovely to be with you, even if it's only virtually in your classroom. Today, we're going to be needing to use our little New Testament. So, if you are sitting there without your New Testament, year 3 to 8, can you go and get it now so you've got it ready so you can read along with me when we read a part of this later on in the assembly? So today we're going to be thinking a little bit about what God says about you, so about each one of us in his word. So in the Bible, I know we've only got part of it here, but we're going to be looking at what God says about each one of us. So I've got a little bit of a challenge for you first of all. Have a look at this picture. What do you think this picture is of? Now, I'm going to give you a minute to think. Your teacher can pause the video so you can tell them what you think this picture is of. And then you can start it again and I'll tell you the answer. So I hope some of you had a bit of a guess at what this picture is of. Now, it's a little bit of a trick question because this is a picture taken with a very powerful microscope. So though this looks quite big, it's actually something quite small. So I don't know if anyone actually managed to guess the right answer, and your teachers can decide whether you got the right answer. If anyone did guess it, even have a bonus from me. So this is actually a fingerprint. So on the end of your finger, so you have a fingerprint where your skin is all folded and it makes all these ridges and swirls. Okay, so if we go back to the other one, so obviously this is really magnified in, and it makes the little ridges on your fingers almost look like furrows on a field, doesn't it? In and out. There are lots of little bits, some flaky bits all over it. That might sound a little bit disgusting, but those are all the dead skin. So I don't know if you know that your skin is constantly growing. We use our fingers and our hands all the time, so the bits of skin are wearing off, but it's constantly regrowing. So when we magnify into our fingertips, this is what they look like. You know, you might have very nice, smooth hands, but actually if we magnified them, this is what it would look like. Now, the interesting thing about fingerprints is that each person in the world has unique fingerprints. So no one else in the world will have exactly the same fingerprints as you. Even if you were a part of identical twins, so you had an identical twin, even though you've kind of been made from the same egg as your identical twin, you still would have unique fingerprints. Because not only are your fingerprints determined by the kind of information inside you that makes you, but it's also to do with when you're actually growing in your mum's tummy, in their uterus. So that's the bit inside their tummy where you grow. There's liquid inside there. So I don't know if some of you will know this, that you grow in this kind of like little bag full of liquid. And the pressure of that liquid, how that liquid squeezes on you and how your bones are growing and how different things determines what your fingerprints look like. So even if you are so identically the same to your twin and lots of people couldn't tell you apart, you still would have different fingerprints. And so the police, if you ever committed a crime or anything like that, hopefully you won't, the police could tell you apart because you'd have a unique fingerprint. So what about if we went kind of inside us? So we're different on the outside. What about inside us? So some of you will recognize this photo. So these are some of the things that are inside you. So the things inside you are called cells, and these are some of the cells in our bodies. The red ones, quite a few of you probably will recognize what they are. These are red blood cells. So these go round your body. They carry oxygen round from your lungs to all the parts of your body to help your body function. And then they take another gas called carbon dioxide back to your lungs for you to breathe out. So they're really important. Look here, you've also got some green things, which look a bit funny. They're not really green, they've coloured these on the photo. And these are called platelets, and they help your blood to clot. So say you fall over and you cut your knee, and then you get that nice scab forms to stop you carrying on bleeding. This is what makes the scab, okay? And the orange thing here is called a T cell, and that's something that fights infections. So if you've got something nasty in your blood, these would go and fight it and try and kill it so you don't get ill. But actually, in our bodies, we have got so many types of cells. Those were just a few sorts of cells. We've actually got 1 trillion number of cells in our body. That's 1 and 12 noughts after it. It's like too big a number to imagine. But these are all sorts of different cells that do different jobs in your body. So you'll have some very simple ones, like the skin cells on your fingerprints would be really simple. Then we'd have some really much more complicated. Think about the cells in your eye that make your eye be able to see, and various other parts of your body that do amazing things. Now, you might want to look what some other cells look like. So some of the simplest cells in your body, I said, are skin cells. And these are a special sort of skin cell. These are the cells that you would find inside your cheek. So if you don't do this, because obviously we're trying to be careful about we don't spread germs, but inside your cheek, and if you scraped off a bit of those cells, this is what they would look like. So people in 7 and 8, you will have done this in our science lesson. We look at our cells under the microscope, and these cells, that might sound painful scraping them off, but actually, do you know when you chomp on the inside of your mouth and you take off a little chunk of skin when you're eating, but then they grow back? So it might be for a little while, there's a little bit of a dent there, but the skin grows back. And that's what these cells look like. They're very simple cells, okay? You can see they're just roughly round shape. They've got this darker area in the middle, but they're very simple because their only job really is to grow and be that kind of layer inside your mouth. And they grow very quickly because we're eating all the time. We have something that breaks up our food in our mouth, like little scissors. So these cells in our mouths are being worn away all the time. And so they have to grow quite rapidly, so you can look at them quite coolly under the microscope. And if you're not yet in 7 and 8, you do this in year 6. So in year 6, we look at our cells under the microscope and have a look, and it's pretty cool. But what I want to show you is what's inside this little bit in the middle. So inside the middle here, we have something called the nucleus. And the nucleus is basically the control center. It's the bit that tells the cell what to do. Now, if we went inside the nucleus, this is what we would find. Something called DNA. And some of you might have heard of that term DNA, or maybe genetic material. It's a very complicated thing, very complicated chemical, but it has amazing information on it. Now, basically, inside the nucleus of each of those cells, so these cells are pretty small, so you'd have to look under a microscope to see them. Inside this little bit here, which is obviously even smaller, you have coiled up inside there, really tightly coiled, this thing that here looks like a bit like a ladder that's being twisted. You have 6 feet of this, okay? And it has loads of information. So inside that nucleus, it has all the information to make you who you are. So it has everything that tells your body what colour hair you will have, what colour your eyes will be, how tall you will grow, basically everything about you. About your ears. Do your ears attach to the side of your face, or do you have a little lobe? Loads of information about you. And it's basically like a library of books that contain everything about you. So your body knows what to do. Now, if we put all this DNA, this information about you that's inside your body, if we got it into one long line, this long line would be so long that it could stretch from Earth to the sun and back 61 times. 61 times. It's like mind-boggling, isn't it? But that's all the information inside every one of your cells added together. So This information is a bit like a computer code. So some of you will be doing coding on the computers and you'll be telling the computer certain instructions to make things happen. This is exactly what this is like. It's like a series of letters that actually tell your body how to do various things. So it's like this information making you. And though we might seem very simple on the outside, but inside, this incredible amount of information that makes our bodies work, makes our bodies be able to repair ourselves, but makes us all completely different, because every person's DNA, this code, is completely unique to us. No one else in the world has exactly the same DNA. We are so completely different. So even though you look a little bit like your mum and your dad, you look a little bit like both of them, you might look like your brothers and your sisters, you still are completely different to everyone else, not only on your fingerprints, but also inside, this information inside you. You are completely unique. And this is pretty incredible, all this information in your body. But what I wanted to share with you is that, amazingly, before any of this was known, God said in his word about how unique you are. So we're going to read Psalm 139. It is a lovely psalm. So you can follow along with me. So year 3 to 8, if you find it, it's on page 718. Okay, and I'm going to read it. So I'm going to read up to verse 18. Okay, so you follow along and you can read it with me. So Psalm 139. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even the darkness will be not dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book, before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I am awake, I am still with you. And this is just such a lovely psalm. So it talks so much about God being with us and knowing us so well, and knowing us so well that even before we speak a word, he knows what we are going to say. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. And then it talks about him being with us, and that wherever we go in the world, even if we could go up to heaven on our own, we can't go to a place where God isn't going to be with us, looking after us, because he is everywhere. He kind of fills the whole of the universe. And then the bit that kind of fits in with what we're saying. So verse 13, so at the bottom of page 718, it says, For you created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. And it talks about that God is the one that kind of makes us even when we're in our mother's womb. So that's when you're really, really tiny, and the kind of start of life. It says that God kind of knit us together, like almost like He's knitting us as a jumper. You knit a jumper, but He's making us, and He's saying that everything He makes is really good. We know that from the beginning of Genesis. God created the world and everything in it, and everything He looked at, He said, it's good, because everything He makes is really good. And so this is really an amazing picture of, for each one of us, that God is saying that I've made you. Even when you were like, probably before your mum even knew she was pregnant with you, I was making you. I was forming you in your mother's womb, the start of life, before you were so small, like smaller than a grain of sand. God was making you. And that's why we should be proud of who we are. There's nothing, God has made us and said that we're amazing and unique and special to Him. And if He made us like that, we shouldn't be embarrassed of who we are. Doesn't matter, if we think we don't look right, or we haven't got the right sort of hair or the right sort of colour hair, we've got too long legs, we've got too short legs, whatever. God says He made us, and we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so that's what we want to think about today, that God has made us and we're unique because He has made us. And I just want you to remember the words of that psalm. It might be that you want to go, when this finishes, you want to go and use a highlighter and highlight some of the verses from that psalm. I find this such an encouraging psalm, that it talks about God knowing us so well and being kind of before us and kind of all the way around us, enclosing us, keeping us safe. And so you might want to go and just have a little read of that on your own and highlight some of the verses that speak to you. So let's just pray to finish. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we are unique, that you have made us different from every other person in the world. We thank you that you know us so well, that even before we speak a single word, you know what we're going to say. And Lord, I thank you that because you've made us, we are special. And that everything you make is good. So Lord, however we feel about ourselves, Lord, that you say that we are good, that you love us and we are special. So Lord, I pray that you would help each one of us realise the uniqueness of ourselves. Lord, I pray that you would just fill each person here with your love, that they would know that love that talks in the psalm, talks about you surrounding us. I pray, Lord, that you would just surround each person now, and they would know your love surrounding them. In Jesus' name, amen. See you next week.